Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Fire Force chapter 262. I believe with this chapter, we will be caught up with the Japanese release, which is great. But anyway, when we last left our heroes, Arthur and Vulcan's Dragon Quest adventure continued, but as Arthur began to approach the final boss with the Dragon Lord, he took a moment to talk about, to ask Vulcan about Yu and about how they still have to save Yu. And we learned a little bit about Yu's backstory, how his parents had died in a fire, I think it was, and he was kind of living on the street, didn't want to go to any orphanages. And so when Vulcan learned that, he kind of took Yu in as family. And Arthur kind of, dedicated himself to rescuing Yu, to the point where he even, skipped the final boss of the Dragon Quest game and left to go A, fight Dragon, and B, do something else before that, which was heavily implied to be finding and saving Yu, which I guess is possible. Meanwhile, back with the rest of Company 8 and the world at large, hope is seemingly not working, and both Victor and Sumire are of the opinion that only the feelings of certain important people actually matter. And I think Okubo is eventually moving to a pivot against that theory. I talked a bit about the great man theory of history last time. And yeah, we'll kind of see what all comes of that. Right now. So let's jump right on into chapter 262 to Swear on the Sword. Our picture here is of Arthur in a bit more of the normal Fire Force cover style, not that kind of cool color painting from last time, but just kind of smiling. The Night King's preparations are complete. Now to save the world. And also, when we left off last time, Arthur had given Vulcan Excalibur and told him to hoist it to the heavens, and it would point the way to Yu, which is where we jump back into. With Vulcan looking at Excalibur, hoist it to the heavens? Hoist the holy blade to the heavens. Do that, and the path to Yu shall open. And Arthur tells him, once you do, it should lead us to Yu. And Vulcan is just, I can't do that, man. But Arthur tells him, Excalibur is a holy blade forged not just by your hands, but Lisa and Yu. It holds all three of your love. It knows where Yu is. Okay, I guess that works. I guess that's a thing, sure. But Vulcan looks at Excalibur and kind of unsheaths it. But of course, because it is Arthur's sword, it has no blade. The blade is provided by Arthur. Anyway, Vulcan just says, Arthur, you're always saying the craziest stuff, but right now it seemed like you're being completely straight with me. And he holds it to the sky. Still, if nothing happens, this is going to be really embarrassing. And Arthur just tells him, completely straight-faced, by the way, a heart with love for you will light the way to him. And Vulcan just thinks to himself, a heart with love for you, huh? And it works. The Excalibur forms, the blade forms, it goes a little bit up in the air, and then it shoots down the street. I guess pointing the way to Yu. I'm not quite sure how that's supposed to have happened, but maybe it doesn't really matter. And Vulcan is just completely stunned. Why? For real? And Arthur is just taking all this in stride. Excalibur says Yu's in that direction. But Vulcan is still focused on Excalibur. What? How did I do that? Is he really there? I didn't add this feature. How? And then Arthur just completely ignoring Vulcan, says, we will use teleportation magic to reach Yu. Hold on to me quick, Vulcan. Wait, what? What? Huh? Oh, spirit, carry us aloft. And we see, fire is kind of spinning around Arthur and Vulcan. I don't have any idea what's going on right now. Okay, this is insane. Zoom! Dude, stop. But then we cut to Giovanni Yu, who looks a lot less creepy right now. We're kind of not seeing the infernalized form, and apparently that was just a stylistic choice the whole time, because Yu looks mostly human. There's a kind of almost frog-like quality to his face, and we see stitching that I think is new up on around his arm here-ish. I hope my arm is in camera there. Yeah. around here-ish, and then again on his, over his nose and under his eyes. And I think that's new. Anyway, Giovanni, as you, is saying, I've awaited this moment. I've knocked and knocked and knocked as I waited. I've parasitized young body after young body, waiting so long. Now that's interesting. Because as I recall, there is some kind of implication that at the very least, because I thought, I'm trying to remember if it was stated that it was Giovanni's ancestors along with the Joseph clan that built Amaterasu, or if it was Giovanni himself. Because this line, I've parasitized young body after young body waiting so long, implies, to me at least, that Giovanni has been doing this, I mean, if not the entire 250 years since the first Cataclysm, at least for a while. Which is all very interesting. But it is not an Infernal U. Like I kind of assumed back when U was first kind of taken over. Anyway, and Giovanni grins. And now, I get to see the world's end with my own eyes. Finally, my deepest wishes come true. And what little we can kind of see of Yu's teeth, as the image of Yu's body kind of overlays a bunch of panels, but his teeth seem like fang-like. Anyway, Giovanni just kind of shouts, Adolla, you finally make yourself visible to my eyes. O great evangelist, hurry, reveal yourself to me. And just then, kind of like what we saw at the start of last chapter, that very same 8-bit lightning effect kind of strikes down in front of Giovanni. And from it, Giovanni looks over, and he sees that Arthur and Vulcan have arrived there. My best guess as to what is going on with all of the new Arthur powers is that somehow, maybe by nature of Adolla's whole thing about the collective unconscious, though I guess this is more of the individual unconscious, or even the individual consciousness, Arthur is so convinced that Dragon Quest will give him the power he needs to beat Dragon, that it worked somehow? Which, like I kind of referred to, I think last chapter, is kind of just the setup for Arthur's power the whole time. So maybe there is, like I kind of thought about, I think last chapter or the chapter before, some connection between Arthur's entire deal and Adolla as a whole, which is really interesting, and I'm really curious if that's where Okubo is going with all this, that Arthur is somehow closer to Adolla than anyone else because his powers are so based on his own personal perception. But it's telling that this teleportation magic that Arthur refers to earlier is signified with the same 8-bit lightning that kind of happened last chapter about the Dragon Lord's castle. I don't know. It's all really weird and interesting. I've also not even talked about, speaking of weird things that I just kind of thought of, the weird kind of dress robe Giovanni has got you in. I don't think that was Yu's original outfit, which means like the top half, the vest looking thing, looks like it is. But then instead of like the pants I think Yu normally wears, it goes into this long, like, trailing skirt, which means at some point Giovanni has to, like, go home and, like, shop or steal a skirt from someone, which is just really funny to me. But anyway, let's focus. I'm getting distracted. Giovanni notices the arrival of Arthur and Vulcan and looks at them. You two. And Vulcan notices him and calls, You! And Giovanni just leers. When? And how exactly did you get here? And Vulcan just ignores him. Giovanni, give you back! But Giovanni taunts. I have already become one with Yu's body. As a matter of fact, I wanted to thank you. With this body, my dream will come true. It will nourish me. And Vulcan just snaps. That's Yu's body. You're too late. I have already planted the parasite in Yu's brain. And he points at the bandage on his head. we are one. But Arthur gets a different opinion from that, or a different take from that. While Giovanni is saying we are one and we can't be separated, Arthur seems to be saying, Arthur's line is, so that's where you're hiding. Which seems to imply that Arthur thinks that Arthur's immediate goal is attack the brain and separate the Giovanni parasite from you. Anyway, Giovanni kind of ignores him and continues, I'll let you have this body back once I've witnessed Adolla. Of course, the world will already be destroyed at that point, but... And just then, Arthur just kind of appears in front of Giovanni and shoots an Excalibur beam through his brain. And Arthur just shuts him down. Men like you, who clamber over the tiniest peaks of the world's surface. In the end, you die knowing nothing. Get out of my sight, you filthy, cowardly insect. That can't possibly be it for Giovanni, is it? I mean, I've said that can't possibly be it for Giovanni. Could it? 5 times in the past 15 chapters? But also, the thing about... There's something about Arthur's line there. Men like you, who clamber over the tiniest peaks of the world's surface. In the end, you die knowing nothing. That feels... I'm trying to find the right word for it. More omniscient than Arthur is? I mean, specifically, the tiniest peaks at the world's surface. I mean, that's the kind of heightened language you might see in the obscure ways the White Clad might talk about the world. Not Arthur. Which, as I've kind of been sort of hypothesizing over the past couple of chapters, might mean that Arthur is, in fact, a little closer to Adolla than anyone else. That he's somehow tied to Adolla in a way no one else is. I don't know. I might be completely wrong here, and I'm super open to that. But I think I might be onto something. There's something about Arthur that is closer to Adolla than anyone else. But anyway, Yu falls, and Arthur grabs him, and Vulcan calls Yu. He's alright. The only thing I burned was Giovanni, who was nesting in his brain. So, does that mean that Giovanni is just kind of dead? And Vulcan just responds, like a gamma knife. And Yu kind of groans. Ugh. Yu! And Vulcan calls to him, and Yu awakens. His eyes are kind of back to normal, no longer the really kind of shrunken irises that Giovanni's version of him had, but the more, typical anime eyes. Vulcan? Arthur's son? And Vulcan just hugs him. The sound effect there literally just has a glomp, like it's 2005 or something. Is it really you? It's you, right? Thank God. And Yu just asks him, Vulcan, what happened? And then Vulcan turns to Arthur. Thank you, Arthur. I don't even know how to express my gratitude. And Arthur says, don't hold back your praise. Which is hella, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very sort of self-important, maybe? That I mean, he does kind of deserve it. He did kind of, one-shot Giovanni. But he puts on his firefighter's coat as the subtitle, The Night King, is imposed over him. And Arthur just says, it is thanks to you that I have truly become a Night King. And for that I must thank you. I have carried out my promise to you, Vulcan. Now I have one promise left to keep. And Vulcan just responds, right, are you off? But Yu asks kind of questioningly, one more? I guess Yu doesn't know too much about Dragon. But just then, there's a rumbling all around the rooftop where the three of them are. And Yu looks around. What's this rumbling? It's like the whole world is. And then we have what sounds like an omniscient narrator talking. The world quivered like that of a sputtering flame. Arthur, naturally, understood the cause. In that moment, the horizon shone a light, and we just see this huge like stream of fire in the sky, kind of like even it's kind of like branching off, like nice curly patterns. And Yu panics. Is the world ending? But Arthur just responds, "Dragon despairs." And then we cut to at Tama Bay. I'm not quite sure where that is, but the narrator tells us the horizon burns bright red, and the source of those flames are clear. And we see this like cloud of I guess like explosion, and the noticeable silhouette of dragon in the center of it, unharmed. All missiles were a direct hit. What about the target? How could someone survive a missile strike? And Dragon just taunts them, pathetic. You're all pathetic. The narrator again, the titanic wyvern of despair, Dragon. As if a manifestation of Dragon's despair, an undersea volcano swells and erupts. And I guess he like single-handedly forces a volcano to erupt. And Arthur kind of looks on. The sheer despair of a powerful being like Dragon spurs the world towards its termination. I can't keep him waiting any longer. And he puts his hood on. And Dragon just calls out, "Come on! How much longer are you going to make me wait? I went to the trouble of coming back to this planet. Boy, where are you?" And Arthur tells him, apparently loud enough for Dragon to hear, "On my way. Hurry it up." The Titanic Wyvern versus the Night King. The time to determine the victor is at hand. A battle which will shake the heaven and earth begins. To be continued in chapter 263, A Battle of Legend. Okay. So, this is a really fun chapter. Gonna get my one complaint out of the way first. If this is how Giovanni goes, if he's not somehow still, sneaking away in the back of Yu's brain like a cockroach, it's kind of a lame way for him to go. He's kind of one of the series' longest recurring villains. I think he is the longest recurring villain at this point. He's been openly a villain since like Company 3, or since Vulcan's Workshop, I mean. And like no other current villain has been around that long, besides maybe the Evangelist, depending on if we count her as being active, which is a whole discussion we could get into at a later date, and we just might as we get closer to the end game. But anyway, putting that aside for now, in case you cannot tell, it's like 12:30 in the morning, and my meds have long since worn off, so I'm talking about whatever pops into my head. But if this is the end for Giovanni, it's a little disappointing. I do like there's certain I'm just sort of noticing it now, a certain like Tim Burton look to Giovanni Yu, like something out of Nightmare Before Christmas, which is really cool looking, and I'm kind of disappointed we only get it for like 5 seconds because it really does look neat. And then Yu comes back to normal and it's all gone. But yeah, there's just I'm looking over that scene where Arthur kills Giovanni, and it just feels like Arthur knows more, is more than he seems. That he's somehow more knowledgeable of Adolla than he lets off. He's somehow tied to it. Like, there's just something with the line, "the tiniest peaks at the world's surface," that doesn't feel like Arthur, unless, like I've kind of been positing, Arthur is tied to Adolla in some way, more so than anyone else. And I really want to see, like, if we're going, I kind of predict, a part of me predicts that the fight with Dragon could very well be Arthur's last big solo battle. I'm still hoping at some point for a rematch with Haumea. If the pillars ever kind of enter the story again, to be enter the story in the same like plane of existence as the non-pillars, then maybe we'll get an Arthur Haumea rematch. But this is definitely one of Arthur's last big fights with Dragon. It's been teased at this point for almost 100 chapters, which is kind of weird for me to say out loud. I think 100 chapters, maybe like 80 actually, but either way. a long time at this point. And so I think if we're going to get anything that any definitive proof that Arthur is like deeply tied to Adolla in some meaningful way, we're gonna get it in the next couple of chapters as that Arthur Dragon fight plays out. Because there is definitely something interesting, like I've kind of been saying over and over again at this point, like a broken record, about how Arthur's powers have always been tied to his own identity, his own worldview, and that's also kind of how Adolla works, to my understanding. So yeah, that's it's just kind of a weird ending for Giovanni. But I do hope, but like just how suddenly, Arthur gets all these new powers, like finding you, like teleporting. It all seems to be tied to Adolla, to the merging of Adolla in the real world, Adolla as a world of the collective consciousness. All of that seems to be tied together. And I'm hoping we do get answers for that. But yeah, with that, with Giovanni seemingly dead, I feel like there should always be a seemingly dead whenever we talk about Giovanni, because who fucking knows at this point. But with that action, with saving you, Arthur is finally, at last, in his own terms, the Night King. The Night King. And now Dragon is back. And no one can stop him. Someone, presumably the military or Company 2 or someone, have been trying to kill him and have utterly failed. But at last, it is time for round 3 of Arthur versus Dragon. And this time will be for all the marbles. And I cannot fucking wait for that. So, I'm gonna leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe. Do whatever makes you happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!